All right. This is the Tell Me About It podcast. I'm Stella Graham. This is where I get to talk to interesting people who know some stuff because I need it, because I am a little bit thick, people. Now, my guest today is the fabulous Lee Stuart. Hello, mate.
How doing, Stella?
It's good to see you. Now, if you don't know much about Lee, where have you been? He's a great guy. Lee used to be in the Royal Marines, and back in 2010, he set up Commando Bootcamp. So Marine level training, getting people nice and fit. Then, of course, when all the COVID craziness happened, Lee began streaming online HIIT workouts, sort of like Joe Wicks, but better. There are 11 workouts, 20 minutes of hell, I like to call it, because they are brutal. And you do this every morning, like 6:30 in the morning, getting people fit. We will talk a little bit more about that, and I will post all the links to all that good stuff here on YouTube. But what I want to ask you, Lee, I
Yeah,
need knowledge.
yeah.
What is it like being a Royal Marines commander? What made you decide to do it?
I didn't have any pressing desire as I was growing up. It wasn't a lot of the lads who I joined with. They'd wanted to be Royal Marines since they were small, all through their school days, childhood. They just had this focus on becoming a Royal Marine. I didn't have that. I don't mind admitting that. It wasn't, I didn't have this burning desire to be a Marine from a young age. I basically left school and ended up working in an office, in an insurance office.
Okay.
And to be honest, I was bored to death.
Yeah.
And I was 17, 18 years old, and I just could not see myself sat in an office with a computer, a pile of paperwork up there, sitting there from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock every day. And
As many of us do. Yeah.
yeah, the thought of doing that just completely depressed me. I was sat in my office one day looking out the window, and there just happened to be a building site over the road from my office.
Okay.
A lot of builders are out there. This was back before the health and safety thing went mad. This, going back over 20 years. All the builders were out there. All they had on was a pair of shoes. It was a boiling hot day. They just had the shorts on, the boots. That was it. There's having a laugh and a joke. And I just thought, I want to be outside. I need to be in the fresh air. I knew I wasn't very practical with my hands, so I knew building wasn't the forward for me. DIY is definitely not my strong point.
Okay.
And I just happened to be, I went up for a walk around the town because my office was in the city centre. I was walking around the town.
This was back in Coventry, right?
Back in Coventry, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was walking around town one day and I saw a post that happened to walk past the military careers office. Saw a big poster in the front window for the Royal Marines and thought, so like I said, it's more by default. Rather than having this burning desire to be a Marine, it was more of a case of not wanting to do anything else or not knowing what else I wanted to do. I just thought, that will do. Let's have a go at that. It sounds good. My mum and dad will probably be impressed if I pull it off. My mates will be impressed. It'll be good for getting girls if I'm talking to a girl. So, yeah, I'm a Royal Marine. That's got to be a bonus.
Of course. I love that, because you could have seen a sign for like join the army, regular Navy, Air Force, but no, you went for like the hardest path.
Yeah, well, I thought, well, there's a little bit. I know I'm conscious we've only got 15 minutes. I'm trying to keep it as relevant and valid as I can. I actually joined the Navy first. So
Okay.
I looked at the Marines. I thought, just a lack of self-confidence, and there's a big lesson in there as well for another day. Just a lack of self-confidence. So I ended up actually joining the Navy first, very briefly,
Right.
a couple of months. That gave me a bit of confidence, and I thought, I'm actually not bad at this. I'm fit, I'm strong, I can do all the sort. I can shoot a weapon. You do a bit of shooting and things like that. And a couple of Marines weapons instructors on the Navy base where I was doing my Navy training.
Okay.
And I just saw them with their green berets on. They had the Royal Marines Commando badges. I thought, I'm going to go for it. So I left the Navy because you're allowed to leave in your first 3 months. So I left the Navy and went back down the careers office. The bloke was pretty surprised to see me.
Yeah.
He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I've left. I want to join the Marines." And he was a bit annoyed at first because of all the paperwork involved. But yeah, cut a bit long story short, I ended up, a few months later in Royal Marines basic training.
I mean, you must have known it was going to be really difficult training-wise.
Yeah. I think that's one of the benefits of joining the Navy first, because that was pretty hard. That was not so much physically, but more with regards to discipline and the standard of kit maintenance and polishing and scrubbing the floor. You have to polish the floor and things like that. So I had a little bit of a grounding in it. I knew it was going to be difficult, and that was probably a bit of an advantage in some ways, because I could mentally prepare myself a little bit more for when I turned up for the Marines training, but the level of fitness, the physical side of it was obviously a completely different level, and I don't think there's really much you can do to prepare yourself for the physical side of Marines training. You learn a lot about yourself. You think you can, before I joined the Marines, I got out on a run and I thought I'd pushed myself, but until you get in there, you realise that what your body is capable of, and all that, also the strength of mind that you can achieve, and you've got no option but to keep going. It's a real eye opener, discovering how far you can push yourself physically and mentally when you've got the motivation to do so.
And do you sort of remember the level of what you had to achieve fitness-wise, like how many press? I would imagine you'd run a bit faster if someone's chasing you with a gun. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what, so to be honest, it is hard to get in. I'm not going to say it's easy to get in it. I think it's changed a lot over the years. I'm not sure what it's like now. Excuse me. But back then, you had to do something like 40 press-ups, but they were good. They had to be good press-ups. You couldn't just do, rubbish reps.
Yeah. No, you can't.
You have to do 5 pull-ups, about 40 press-ups, 5 pull-ups.
That's already ruling me out, you realise. I'm thinking, if Lee can do it, can I?
It's perfect. You have to do about 60 sit-ups. You have to do a bleep test, get to about level 11 on a bleep test. And then after you did all that, they took you out onto what we call Woodbury Common. It's a big training area where there's like assault courses, and it's like an endurance course. And basically you get thrashed around that for a couple of hours, and they take down the assault course, you get thrashed around that. And so basically the first bit is like a more scientific assessment of your fitness levels. And then the second bit where they're just basically making life as difficult as they can for you, that's more the test of your sort of mental strength, because you had some lads that were really physically fit, they did well on the gym tests, but then they were weak mentally. They didn't like the cold and the wet, intimidation, the shouting, the aggressiveness of it all. And so you have some lads who've just sort of scraped through the fitness, the press-up test. They might have just done the bare number of press-ups that they had to do to get through, but then they excelled on the mentally demanding side of it.
Okay.
And that's what the Marines look. They look, you have a basic level of fitness, but they're looking for people that have got mental strength and resilience and the determination to keep going, rather than somebody that's super fit but has got no resilience. So it's an interesting balance.
So then once you've done the training, you're in it, the day-to-day, what's the experience like of being, because
it's strange. I'll be honest. We spend a lot of time sitting around doing nothing, because as you imagine, we do. People laugh. They don't believe it when I say what it's like being a Royal Marine. And you can imagine, though, unless there's a war on, there's not a huge amount for a Marine to do. All he's got to do is he's got to be fit. He's got to be able to do, read a map. He's got to be able to fire his weapon and maintain his weapon, know how to use a radio. So what we'd do is a lot of the time we'd get up in the morning, we'd do some PT, as we call it, physical training, go for a run, do a circuit. Sometimes we'd just have a game of football, do PT, come back. And then what happened a lot of the time is they'd say, right, go and have a tea break, come back in an hour. So we'd get an hour off in the morning, come back, and then we'd have a lecture on something like first aid or radio procedure or map reading, or sometimes they'd take us out for the day and we'd do a navigation exercise around Dartmoor or somewhere like that. But day to day on the base, it was relatively laid back. But then now and again, maybe once a month, they'd take you out for a week or so, and that'd be hard. You might go up to Scotland, do some mountain training. We go on to Dartmoor or Woodbury Common or up into the Brecon Beacons, and you do some pretty realistic sort of war play, if that's war games. And then obviously that is super, super hard. You hardly sleep. It'd be very physically demanding. If you were a commando, you'd be putting a lot of pressure to perform as you'd be expected to perform in reality. So you'd have a hard week or 10 days, but then you'd get that done. Then you're back on the base and be pretty relaxed. And so it's a massive roller coaster, really. It was never just average. It's either in the military, I can't speak about the military in general, but in the Marines, it was either really hard or really easy.
Okay.
There was like never in between. You're either hanging out grass or, cold, wet, physically drained, or you were sitting around on the base drinking coffee, going to a few lectures. living like a student type life.
Just
No
hanging
offense
out.
to any students, but yeah, it was like that. It was just constant, one extreme to the other.
So then taking it to one of the extremes. So what would have been, I mean, when you came to leave, sort of what was that journey like?
When I left, well, I've actually left the Marines twice. The first time went massively wrong for me. Bit of a long story. I'll maybe save that for another day. But the first time went massively wrong. I ended up in quite a bad state of depression. I just missed everything about the military. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the brotherhood. I suffered a bad injury playing football, so I couldn't exercise and sport.
That's mad, isn't it? He was in the Marines. What happened to him? Football injury.
Survived my first 4.5 years in the Marines, no problem.
You're dodging bullets, and then you got hit by a mitre in the face.
Yeah, and then I got injured playing football. But yeah, it just all went pretty badly wrong. So I actually ended up rejoining. And then when I left the second time, I was a little bit more clued up. I made sure I went into something that I enjoyed doing, something that gave me a sense of purpose, something that I was passionate about. And then I've been out in the Marines 10 years now. I've not had no sort of real problems. Maybe the odd little bit of a dark spell now and again, or some periods where I've been a bit stressed out and overwhelmed. But generally speaking, the second time I left, or the first time that I left, gave me a lot of lessons that I managed to implement the second time I left. And it's just been that initial experience was invaluable.
So in terms of, obviously, when you're at the base, having a coffee, having a game of football, whatever, and then the phone call comes, there's a war on.
Yeah.
You need to get gone. Where did you go? What sorts of things did you do?
Basically the main highlight of my career operationally was a tour of Afghanistan in 2007. We went to a place called Kajaki. I don't know if some people might have heard of it. I think there's a film about the place.
There is a film. I've seen it. I'd recommend it, actually.
Yeah, it's a good film. Good film. There's a big hydroelectric dam there, and when we went in, or when I say we, I don't mean me personally. This was a few years before I got there, when it all first kicked off. The NATO basically went in, secured the dam, because it wasn't working. It had been built in the 80s when the Russians were there, and it had fallen into disrepair. So NATO went in, and to win hearts and minds of the local population, try and get the local population onto our side rather than the Taliban side. We got this dam up and running and started pumping out electricity to the locals, which obviously endeared the locals to us, sympathetic towards us. Obviously, the Taliban didn't want that, so they kept trying to attack the dam to obviously destroy it, kill all the engineers and everything else, basically shut the dam down. So basically, it was our job to protect the dam. I think there was some sort of contract with we had civilian engineers there actually working on the dam, because that was obviously quite a technically demanding job. So I think the deal was we had to keep the Taliban back 5 kilometers from the dam. Otherwise, the civilian engineering company would pull their workers out. So obviously it was important that we kept the Taliban back this 5 kilometers to keep the dam operational. So yeah, that's what we had to do. And it was quite what we call a kinetic environment. There was a lot going on. There was a lot to think about.
Because you're taking fire, and it's real.
We'd be in the base. They'd be firing at us rockets, mortars, things like that. So you'd be lying in bed at night, and then all of a sudden, a load of mortar rounds would start landing. Sometimes just outside your window. They'd fire Chinese rockets. And this was in the base. Then obviously we'd be going out patrolling. You can't just sit in the base waiting for them to come. You've got to go out and be dynamic, be proactive, and basically go out looking for them, and basically make them think twice about coming too close to the base.
What's the experience like then of actually being in contact?
It's a very, very surreal. It's something I think I've heard people say that there's not many men who haven't imagined themselves whether they're in the military or not. I think a lot of lads watch a war film, and then afterwards they're thinking to themselves, they might be having a shower afterwards, they're thinking, imagine themselves in a gunfight. And obviously if you're in the military, especially the Marines, which is a close combat unit, you imagine what it'd be like. You spend a lot of time mentally preparing yourself for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, it's a little bit surreal. You think, you literally have bullets whizzing past. You have them hitting the wall next to you.
Wow.
I've had bullets hit the ground literally just in front of me. And then it's a very surreal. It's like being in a film, but it's real. It's a good way of describing
it. That's exactly what I was thinking. The closest comparison I have, which is ridiculous, I've played a bit of paintball, Lee.
It is similar, but it can imagine.
It's exactly the same, right? Afghanistan paintball.
That if you get hit, you're dead, or you're going to get severely. If you're not dead, it's going to hurt. Basically, I know paintballs hurt, but
I took one on the side of the head, made my ears ring.
Actually, pretty painful, isn't it? But yeah, it's surreal. But then, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but the training kicks in. Obviously, it focuses the mind, because you can just make one mistake and you're dead. If you move into the wrong position, if you're not paying attention, if you don't spot somebody that's got their sights on you, or there's very little room for error. So it focuses the mind. The training kicks in. The camaraderie is a big part of it. You just know that you've got to perform. Otherwise, not only could you die or get hurt, you could potentially lead to. It's weird. Like you find yourself more bothered about your mates at moments than you are yourself, because you just don't want to let your mates down. I know you've played sport. It is a comparison, and it isn't. But it's when you play football or rugby or whatever team sport it is. One of the things that motivates you is not letting the team down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's why sport is such a big thing in the military, because it instills that feeling, or it practices that mindset of not letting your mates down. So when you're in a battle situation, you're just desperate not to be the weak link. You're desperate not to let anybody down. You're desperate not to do anything wrong, and it does make you more aggressive, makes you fight harder, makes you more determined. And like I say, it focuses the mind. And you start thinking back to your training. When I was in that situation, things that you thought you'd forgot about, things were coming up from the back of my mind that I'd learned as a young recruit 10 years previously, were coming back to me, and I was implementing what I'd been taught, and it's what I think contributed towards keeping me alive, and the other lads as well, because everyone's like a integral part of the machine, and everyone's got to do what they need to do.
Yeah,
that's what keeps everyone alive.
That's well, you came back. You're all in one piece, thankfully.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a shout out. Would you like to shine a spotlight on a mate?
Yeah, I'd like to give my mate Matt Molland a little shout out, please, if that's all right. Matt, he's actually over in Dubai at the moment. He runs a training company, and what he does, he goes into big businesses, corporate businesses, teaches them sales and marketing. And obviously, he's had a bit of a tough time of it the last year or so, because everything's been shut down. People aren't inviting people into their businesses to talk. So what Matt's doing is moving his business online, and he's doing a lot of online training, sales and marketing training with people. So I'd like to help him out a little bit and give him a bit of a shout out.
Lovely stuff. Matt Molland. All of the links to all the good stuff you're working on right now will be posted below here on YouTube. Do you want to just give us a quick roundup of what you're doing?
Yeah, basically, as you briefly mentioned earlier, I left the Marines 10 years ago. When I left, I set up Go Commando Bootcamp. That's in Coventry in the War Memorial Park. I basically run people around the park.
With guns, like proper Marine style?
I do that. I asked the council about that, but I couldn't get
a permit.
I couldn't get a stamp for the risk assessment on that. So we have to leave the guns to one side. But yeah, we run around doing some circuit training, bodyweight exercises. It's simple. We've got beginners groups, advanced groups, so we've got something for everybody. And then while that's closed, I'm running the Rapidfit online training platform. That's all completely free. That's a free service that I run. You just go on Facebook, search Project Rapidfit, and just do some online 20-minute high-intensity workouts or bodyweight stuff. You don't need any kit or equipment, and you can just do it in your back garden or your back room or your kitchen, in your case, wherever you want to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I've been doing them. They're great. I do them in my kitchen, in my pants, which is a detail nobody needed, but I'm throwing it out there. It saves on the laundry, but while the gyms are closed and everything, and you do them every morning.
Yeah, I get up and do them every morning. I've been ill the last week or two, but yeah, normally I'll get get up and do them every morning. It keeps my head in a good place. That's the main reason for doing them. I'm a massive believer in your physical health being very closely linked to your mental health. You've got to do some exercise, in my opinion, if you want to keep yourself mentally in a good place. And,
you do feel so good afterwards as
yeah,
well. I mean, a good half of the appeal is that I get to look up on the iPad and I can see that you're dragging your ass through it as well.
Yeah, me in pain. Then a lot of people have said that they're hanging out and they look at me, and they see I'm hanging out as well, and it's like if you're having some sort of problem, always relate it to when you're at school, you haven't done your own work, and you think, shit, I haven't done my own work, and you walk into school and you say to your mate, have you done your own work? And if he says no, I'm not done mine, all of a sudden it doesn't matter as much.
You've got a mate in detention with you, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's what's it called? Combined shared hardships.
Exactly. And each of the workouts, what I love about yours and why I would say it's better than Joe Wicks is that each individual workout, there's 11, I believe, has its own unique music track. And you start to have your favorites after a while. Like, oh, I like this one. And the music really helps you keep going.
Yeah, that's it. It's just there in the background. I think some people as well, if they've got to know them all pretty well, and if there's a workout schedule that they don't like the music to it, they'll just go onto YouTube and do one of the other ones where they like the tunes. So
that's it.
Yeah, we try and keep everyone happy. We do our best.
Lovely stuff. All of those are on YouTube, and you can find them on Facebook as well. I will post the links. Lee, it's been great hanging out with you. Thank you so much for coming along.
Appreciate having me on. Thank you.
Cheers.